I'ma live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I go by at night, I be in my feelings. I'ma be fine, need time, and I'll still be winning.
Did you like that mix right there that I just did at the beginning, Tom?
Absolutely.
Yes, baby. A little bit of boom, boom. I feel like I'm a DJ right about now.
Well, you're doing a good job of it.
That wasn't intentional by any stretch of the imagination, for sure. So welcome.
It's all right. It's it's Black Eyed Susan Day, so you should make a good mix for the Preakness side of the world.
Yeah, sometimes things that happen on accident are better than things that happen deliberately.
Absolutely.
So?
Racing is very good at that.
Well, I can say that you're probably
some of my betting lately has been good at that too.
When you put the wrong pick in, I don't know about you, but when I put the wrong pick in, like if I meant to put in the 12 and I hit the 13 or something like that, it never works out to my advantage. It always works out against me. The 12 always wins then for sure.
Yeah.
That's been the case. For
my favorite one was at Saratoga, where I had a horse. They loaded it up in the gate. It broke through the gate. They got it under control. Vet checked. I canceled my bet. Vet checked. Guess what happened?
Wire to wire, 14 lengths wasn't close.
Well, 2.5, but still. And I kicked myself like, what? Why did I do that?
Well, yes. Never change a ticket. Absolutely, for sure. Speaking of tickets, last night we had an interesting show with Todd Trump. Not in that Todd's not a great guest, because he is a great guest, but unfortunately he didn't have the greatest of internet connections.
I dropped out myself, so same deal.
And Sean, he was having
the subjection of a hotel Wi-Fi or whatever.
And Sean was having issues as well. So it was a fun night, but we did manage to get in our picks for the Preakness, also with the so here you can see we managed to get our picks in with the Preakness, the Black Eyed Susan today, as well as the sprint. Was it the John McKay sprint right before the Preakness?
Yep.
So it was absolutely a good show. I expect that if you haven't done so yet, head over to Horse Racing Radar TV on YouTube and make sure that you check that one out.
And understand that there will be some cutting in and out.
Yes, indeed. I thought Todd was just pranking us because Todd can be a little bit on the prankster side. But hey, no kidding around today, though. In Ireland, Thomas, we're going to go to the Curragh. And that's my favorite race course on the planet, I think, Tom.
It is a gorgeous place. That's one of my tracks on my list to go to.
Well, maybe gorgeous, but I it's just looking at this track right here. Look at all the different configurations that they have. Now you can run literally any sort of race you want at the Curragh.
Essentially, and they do. They run all kinds of races.
It looks like a Swiss Army knife to me. I mean, Sean, if Sean should sponsor any track, this would be the one.
Yeah, it would be interesting. It's certainly the most famous track in Ireland.
Beautiful looking track. Anyway, the first race that we're going to do today is we're going to cover races on Saturday and Sunday. Tell us a little bit about the races that we're going to cover before we get cracking on the races.
Well, they're all group races. The two key races this weekend, of course, are the Irish Guineas, the 2000, which is for the males. That'll be run on Saturday. And then on Sunday, we'll get the Irish 1000 Guineas, which is the version for the females. And we have a few coming over from other races, notably one of the favorites in the 2000 Guineas, and he ran second in the English version of this at Newbury. And these are mile races. They are considered classics, but unlike us, we don't run any mile classic races. And you would think all our races are mile and 3/16 is the shortest. You would think the classic distance of a mile would be ideal, but of course their courses are significantly different than ours in terms of running a mile race.
Mm-hmm. Well, we don't have any Swiss Army looking tracks. Ours are just a circle
Yeah.
for the most part.
Well, no, that's not true.
Maybe the
We
one
have
in
one. We
yeah,
have one.
say one. Kentucky Downs.
Kentucky Downs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, go.
All right. No, so I'm ready to go to the races.
Yeah.
The first race we're going to do today is race number 3 on Saturday, which is the Weatherbys Ireland Greenland Stakes. I think that's correct, right?
Yep. And it's a Group 2 event.
And this one is going to be 6 furlongs. And if we look at the 6 furlong map on here, Thomas, it looks to me like 6 furlongs is going to start right here. Is that right?
Yeah, it's going to start. It's that
Or
little bend back there. They start on they have a little bend and they make the run in before they get into the straight.
So right here, they're going to put the slight rise, the slight fall, the level, and then the slight rise. Yeah. So it looks like the track does one of these on the way to the finish line.
Yes.
So this one's going to start at approximately 9:45 a.m. Eastern time. It's a field of like 9, I think. Is that right?
Yeah. Up on the left. I mean, the right corner. You see it. The listing of the track.
Yes, runners of 9 indeed, and the track is yielding, but I've read that it's good to yielding, so it might improve by tomorrow.
They're expecting a little more. They may get some more rain, so don't know.
It could get worse then. All right, so
I think again, the classifications are hard to fix sometimes with these courses because what we consider yielding is certainly different than what in Ireland is considered yielding.
Mm-hmm. So looking at this pace setup to me, Tom, I see a couple of horses out of the 9 that probably want to get to the front, a trio of horses, maybe as many as 5 that would like to press, and then a couple of closers. Do you see it the same way?
Yes, I think that would be an accurate description of this race and the way it should set up, the pace should set up. And it'll definitely be one of the better races of the day in my mind, and I really couldn't get past the favorite, A Case of You is my top choice.
That's the number 1 horse.
Number 1, yeah. Has 14 starts, 7 wins, 2 seconds, and 2 thirds. Last 2 races were in Dubai and fairly successful. Won one of them in a Group 1 and was second to Man of Promise in a Group 3. Man of Promise is also an Irish-based horse. Before shipping to Dubai, he prepped in a race, an all-weather race at Dundalk, and it was a 4-horse field. He won it. He went off at 4-1 as the favorite. That tells me that was a pretty competitive race. So a little better than average. Prior to that, he raced the Breeders' Cup. He was 5th to Golden Pal. Well, a lot of horses have done that before. After his start at Royal Ascot, they laid him off. And, since that, he's been in the money 6 or 7 times. And that Breeders' Cup race is the only one that tripped him up. He's won and placed on all types of track conditions, so I think he's primed here for a good run. And I think he'll definitely be the favorite.
I think so too. Case of You, I think he'll be the favorite. Right now, he's the 5-2 morning line. So,
yeah, I hope I get 5-2 at this point. Number 5, Majestic Colt, is my next choice. 19 starts, 9 wins, and 2 thirds.
How does that rail draw affect them? I know they said the track's going to be in the center of the gate. So
pan up again. Let's see where they're going to set the gate.
It said center.
Yeah, I don't think it affects it at all.
All right.
On paper, that last start looked average. He was up with the leaders, then he dropped back, and the description was he even raced to finish. He raced at Cork prior to that. It was a mess. It was 7 furlong race, big field with 25 horses, and he went off at big odds.
I'm kind of surprised you didn't throw any 25 horse fields at me today. Usually you do.
That next week. So why pick? Okay, first 2 races are in Ireland. He'd been away from the track for over a year, and I really think he needed those races. He's an import from Germany. He won and placed in 6 furlong, 6.5, and 7 furlong races on all types of track conditions. The other thing that I think is really interesting is that he is a Godolphin cast off that they purchased for $20K. So that's euros.
Mm.
So I'm expecting a big price, and I think we may see some nice results out of this horse. My final selection is number 3, Glen Shield. 35 starts, 8 wins, 10 seconds, 1/3. After some really disappointing efforts in 2021, in my mind, he got a placing at Ascot, and the rest of the season, he was running behind horses like Creative Force in a Grade 1. I mean, he used a Haydock Class 2 races for his comeback race, and he finished second to Brad the Brief, and he was the favorite in that race at first. Brad the Beef is also a halfway decent horse, listed in above company. I mean, early in his career, he ran 1 mile and more races, and it was a mistake. He just mixed results, nothing consistent. And then, but again, he was running against really good company. And so they started to put him in sprints, and he started to really get better. I think he'll improve off the first start. I don't know if he can win this race, because I think Case of View is really tough. But I think he's going to give a good accounting of himself in this race.
Well, I agree with you. I think A Case of You is the horse to beat, the one horse. But who's going to beat him? That's the $1 million question. I'm going to go with Muniesta, obviously named after the Spanish soccer player, Iniesta. Maybe, I don't know. But this horse
good bet.
Could be. See, he's faced up against A Case of You a couple of times. More often than not, A Case of You has got the better of him, for sure. But I look back in his record. This will be the third start off the layoff for Muniesta. And the last time he had a 3-race cycle, he came back to win in the 3rd leg. Faced off against A Case of You in the 4th leg, and actually just missed by a neck. That was at 5 furlongs on a soft course. So maybe the 6 furlongs will be enough to overcome that. I have A Case of You coming in second. I agree with you. Going to likely be the post-time favorite. If it goes off at 5-2, that would kind of probably be a little bit concerning to me, because that would tell me that it's not a heavy favorite. So then I would definitely look to try to beat him. Glen Shield is my 3rd choice, just like you. This one is making its 2nd start off a layoff. I do expect that it'll improve like it did the last time off. The horse seems to like Curragh. Ran there once, finished and won $39,000. So obviously not a small race. And then at the distance, likes to hang. Ran 11 times at the distance, finishing first a couple of times, but also finishing second 5 times. So I think this horse looks like it came back in good form for its 8-year-old campaign, and it should improve in the last leg. And for me, to round it out with a little bit of it was a tough call, honestly, for me between the 3 and the 4. Gustavus Weston. This is a horse that's run at the Curragh 9 times, managed to win 3 of them. A lot of them at 6 furlongs. In fact, he's run at 6 furlongs 9 times, winning 4 of them. And it's one that's done pretty well on a yielding course. The last time he caught a 6 furlong yielding course at the Curragh was his 2nd start off a layoff. Sounds familiar. And that's exactly what we got today. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Gustavus Weston perform well in this spot too. So those are the horses that I have for my selections in the first race there, Thomas. Race number 2 is, let me pull this one up. This is the Guineas. Did I get it yet?
Yes.
It only took me, a year?
Roughly, yeah, because we covered.
So the 1 mile Guineas, let's go over here and look again at the track. So 1 mile, boy, where does 1 mile start? It looks to me like it goes.
It'll start up the top of the page there.
Back here? Yeah, right here.
Yeah, and then they come in, and then a little bit of a kind of a sharpish turn for home.
Yeah, it is kind of a sharpish turn. It looks to me like you probably want to be mid-pack, not on the rail for that turn. So kind of middle of the course. From your experience, so it's going to start uphill, then go downhill, then have a slight fall, level out, and slight rise. So the horses are definitely going to have an undulating surface. From your experience watching these races, what do you expect to see? Speed, closers?
I think it'll be either one of the stalkers or one of the closers would be ideal. Generally speaking, the speed doesn't hold up. And
So
I looked at the pace of the race, and it could set up for a number of different horses. I think a little bit of racing luck will also play a factor in here.
So looking at it as far as pace is concerned, I only see 2 horses maybe out of the field of 9 that want to be towards the front, and maybe 3 that want to be middle of the pack, kind of chase the leaders, and then 4 of the 9 I have at the back of the pack. Would you say that's how you think they'll spread out as well?
Yeah, I really think that's a good picture of where this race will be, and there's definitely be some closers coming. Just a matter of who gets the first jump, I think.
All right, so let's get started with the first jump on your picks. Who do you like in the 2000 Irish Guineas?
Well, I'm back with a favorite.
Oh, Tom, you're being so anti-Tom today.
Oh yeah, number 7, Native.
Well, I guess that one's kind of hard to really go against, huh?
Yeah, I tried. I think it's a competitive field, but I just couldn't get past this horse. He performed well in the 2000 Guineas last time out at Newberry. He lost to a stablemate. He was the favorite in that race. I mean, let's face it, 6 starts, 5 wins in a second. That ain't bad.
So we're talking about Native Trail here.
Yeah, Native Trail, number 7. And he ran a good race. He just got beat by a better horse in the day. So they're still looking to get a classic win for him. So why not chip him to the Curragh? And for the same type of race, even though the track is very different in terms of how the race will be, the race layout is very, very wet. This one definitely not being. He's as a 2-year-old, he ran 7 furlong races, and then the first start of the year they put him in a mile, and he won that. He looked good in that race too, and that's why he was the favorite. And okay, well, good. It's a Godolphin, Charlie Appleby, William Buick. Kind of hard to complain about that too.
Yeah, they're very good connections, as they say.
Yeah, number 1, Atomic Jones, my next choice.
They're going to be lined up right next to each other.
3 starts and 2 wins. He needed his last start in my mind. He was never really in the race on even terms. And watching the race, I would agree. That was a description I felt. He was held back. He made some headway, and then he flattened out. The winner of the race is the favorite for the Epsom Derby, which is Stone Age, which is Aidan O'Brien horse. So that tells me he ran against some good company, especially if they're considered that. I question the distance with this horse. It's interesting that they're going to use a 1.25 mile race and then drop him back to a mile. So I think he's got a really good chance here. He's won races at 7 furlongs and 8 furlongs. I think they were just seeing if they had that classic horse for the Epsom Derby, but I think they're better suited to run this horse here. And he did win at the Curragh. He won his maiden race there. My final choice is number 4, Imperial Fighter. It's 5 starts, has 1 win, 2 seconds, and a third. Ran third last out in a listed race on the all-weather at Newcastle. And I like to refer to it as an adventuresome trip. He was steadied at the start. He was looking for racing room. He didn't have it, but about 2 furlongs off, then he got shut off again. So I would say this is definitely a race with traffic issues. The jockey did get called into the steward's room after the race, and he said he just had no place to go with him. Second start of the year is a challenge. Yes, I will agree with that because with this group, but he's run behind Group 1 winners before, so I'm not looking for the win. I'm looking for him to make my exacta or make my trifecta.
And at 22-1, that will definitely make the exacta or trifecta a little bit better. This race is going to start on Saturday, at approximately 10:20 a.m. Eastern. So make sure you're looking for that so you have a sense of when it's going to go. You're right. Native Trail, that's the give me, what is it, what they call the given in a geometry question. It's the first thing that you put on the list. I mean, of course, it's horse racing. Anything can happen, but I do agree with you. Probably 2 to 5 morning line odds, 1 to 3 right now. It's going to be really low. So obviously the odds makers think he's not facing the most challenging of fields here. The horse I think is most likely to challenge him, to be honest with you, is Buckaroo. Tried Curragh last time out. That's the 2 horse up in here. And in his first race out at the Curragh at 1 mile, that's the distance, on a yielding track, which we're likely to see tomorrow, he won, and he won by 4 lengths. Now, he's 3-year-old, so a little younger horse in here. But the race before that, he was second by a head. So this looks to me like a 3-year-old, one of these 3-year-old horses that's in really good form. And I wouldn't be surprised if he continues to be in good form, if maybe we see him over here later in November.
Yeah, with Buckaroo, I liked him, but I kind of thought this was more of a prep race for him for the Epsom Derby, because that, based on what the commentary that I read, that seems to be where this horse is pointed.
All right. Well, maybe he can win this one on the way there.
It's very possible. I mean, I'm not going to say he can't.
I'm going to float with the Wexford Native as my third choice. A little bit of a price here, but he ran last time out against the Buckaroo and did finish 4th behind that horse on a yielding course at a mile. It's the first time he faced that. Won his debut by 2.5 lengths, but the punters, as they are called over there, are they punters in Ireland too, or
yeah?
All right. So the punters, they backed Wexford Native more than they backed Buckaroo. So I think first time on a yielding course, perhaps the horse didn't like it. First time at the Curragh, maybe the undulations were a little bit difficult for that horse. But if you like Buckaroo, they did like Wexford Native more of that in the previous race. And a lot of times, too, the horses you see, they come out there and run a strong debut. Second race, they regress a little bit. Third race, they respond and do better than they did in the first race. I'm hoping for that pattern here with Wexford Native to give myself a little bit of a price. And then if that one doesn't do it for me, I'm going to go with another price. The number 3, Duke de Sesa. That one is in the right now. It's 40 to 1. Tom, I'm being more like you than you are being like you today, my friend.
I would agree 100%.
So with Duke de Sesa, you would agree with me that running at the Curragh is probably an experience for some horses, and probably one of those tracks that with the weird angles and all that sort of stuff that you might want a horse that has some experience there and has shown that it can do all right. Well, it ran at the Curragh and won. It ran there twice with a win, and it's third by a neck. So, although that was a different Ireland track, came back the next time out against Native Trail, did finish 10 lengths behind him, but third time off a layoff. I'm expecting Duke de Sesa, who's proven that he can win at the distance, 1 mile on the Curragh track. That was his 4 3/4 length win, and he did so on a soft course. So if it gets a little bit heavier than just wet from the extra rain you're talking about, maybe that's a 30 to 1 shot, Tom. That'll make me feel like you come this time tomorrow.
You would be very happy.
Yeah, I would be happy if I hit one like that. I'm due to hit one.
The thing to remember too is a number of these horses train at the Curragh, so they're used to this kind of racing, this kind of a track. So sometimes, if you look up, if you see a horse that's run basically there or wherever, it most likely is training there.
Okay, that's good news. Good to hear. So we're talking about bets today. Obviously, here in the United States, the track of the day for today and tomorrow is going to be Pimlico, right? So Terry has his best bet up for race number 4. That might even be over already. I don't even know. It's probably pretty close.
It's close if it isn't.
So if
it's running right now.
Yeah. So if you didn't get a chance to look at it, I should have probably let off with this, but Terry liked the 3-horse Rusty's. I don't even want to give G550 Hefner. That everybody knows who he is, and then Affordable Monarch. But a little later on today, we put together our wagering guide. So race number 9, the Hilltop Stakes. You can get this over at horseracingtoday.net. Just click on any of the pages. So if you go to the Pimlico page in today's free tracks, you can see the link to get the download. We like Pizza Bianca in that race as our top choice, but we have our value plays and long shots. We break down the early speed, the stalkers, the closers, a little bit about what the early pace might look like, our play, the picks, maybe an exacta or trifecta wagering. And this time around, we added a pretty interesting, what did you think about the data supplement guide? Here we show you how the horses like to win. This is how they've made it to the winner's circle. Here you can see with the green bar, that is the horse's early pace figures. The red bar is the late pace figures. You can see that the 4-horse has a pretty strong advantage on the late pace and is right there with the early pace. Our friend Chris did the pace analysis, and then we have what I call the candlestick stock chart for horse racing. This shows you the red dot is their average speed figure relative to the other horses in the field. The top of the line is their best number. The bottom of the line is their worst number. So just like a stock chart, you can see here that the 4-horse looks to me like an absolute standout in this spot. So if Pizza Bianca goes off at 4 to 5, you may get a steal there.
It's great for visualization because some people, look at the flat paper and go, okay, I have no idea what's going to happen. This gives some people ideas of what could possibly happen.
It just gives you a couple different ways to look at the race. So one of the things, for example, when you're looking at the red and green bars for the early pace and late pace numbers, if you notice that the races are focusing, and this is kind of what I expect to happen at Pimlico, especially since it's going to get really hot. Track's going to dry out. It's going to get really fast. So I think on the dirt races, you're likely to see speed horses perform well. So you're going to want to look for the horses maybe with the bigger green bars. You don't want them to have the absolute smallest red bar, but maybe it's the speed of the speed and they discourage all the other ones. So that's how I would use it, kind of like a compilation. Look at the picks and then try to piece it all together based upon what you see happening at the track. So now we're going to skip to Sunday.
Just on Terry's picks, the finish was 1-4-7.
So he didn't have any of them.
Nope.
Wasn't Terry's best day.
We're not picking on Terry. We just
well, we can pick on Terry. He's got thick skin.
It was a $99 exacta. So I mean, that's not bad.
Nah, I wish you would have had it. But we're gonna move on to Sunday now, Tom. And the first race on Sunday we're going to do is the Gold Cup. That I can pronounce pretty easily. This one is a 1.5 miles and 2.5 furlongs. So is that 1 mile and 5/16? Is that about right?
Mm-hmm.
And this one's going to kick off at 9:40 a.m. Eastern. So looking at 1.25 miles. So if the mile's back here, the 1.25 miles looks to me like it's going to be somewhere. Well, they don't really show. Right here?
Yeah. At the top of the screen, kind of in the middle. So they'll go 1.2.
Yeah, they're going to come out here. They're going to make a hard turn again, and then another hard turn.
And the turn, and I always think it's one of the more interesting races, to be honest with you. That and the Irish Derby. These are you just initially you're out on a plain where there's like nothing. We're used to seeing all kinds of stuff.
It's in the farm,
and it's like they're going out into the field to run this race.
So just the way it looks to me, this turn right here, and then you come back down here and you have this turn right here. It looks to me like if you have a draw towards the inner part of the track here, it might be a negative. Is that true or untrue?
It can affect the running of the race, but again, the stalls will be set in the center. So it's just a matter of how this group breaks out. And, sometimes we get a lone runner on the outside or a lone runner on the inside. The rest of them are running down the center. And these are experienced horses. So, and of course, very experienced jockeys to go with them. Mm-hmm. And, it'll be interesting to see how the pace it sets up in this race, because these are a lot of good horses. I mean, they've won some money.
So as you mentioned the pace, so as I look at the pace here, Tom, I see that it looks to me like you might not have a true front runner in here. Of the 8 horses in the field, I have as many as 6 of them that like to maybe pressure, not necessarily be up front. And I'm not sure which one's going to take command in here. So I wouldn't be all that surprised to see him come out like a pack and run some modest fractions. I have 2 that absolutely want to close. So I do think you're going to see a clump of horses chase one another around the track early on and do so at a moderate pace.
A moderate to slow pace. It was my thinking.
So from that moderate to slow pace, how do you think that's how we figure they're going to start. How do you think they're going to finish?
Oh, I went with number 8, State of Rest, as my top choice. 10 starts, 4 wins, a second, and 2/3. His last race was at Longchamp in a Group 1, and he won it by 3/4 of a length. His last 2 efforts of the year were winning efforts. He's beaten some very good horses. He's lost to some very good horses. And I initially thought he'd be one of the favorites, but now I'm not so sure. And I think he's really got a lot of upside. If he's ready to run and he's handled layoffs before, he should be right there. Number 3, Broom, is my next choice. 22 starts, 7 wins, and 6 seconds. I tossed his last race. It was in Tokyo for the Japan Cup, and it was really a bad race. Prior to that, he ran second in the Breeders' Cup to Yver, and really was one of our better races. His record at the Curragh is something to note because he's started there 4 times. He's got 2 wins and a second. And Aidan O'Brien, coming off a layoff, could be very interesting. Now, I did pick one that's been running as my final choice, and that's number 2, Bear Story. It's 14 starts, 2 wins, 5 seconds, and 3/3. 3 races this year. They're all in the money finishes, and they were listed in Group 1, Group 2 races. And he was beaten by the same horse, Lafayette, every single race. I think the difference here with why I like him is to be in the money here is because he's improving on each race. He was farther back. He lugged in his first race. His second race was better. He sat a little closer to the leaders and just didn't finish. And then in his race he just ran prior to this one coming up, he missed by 3/4 of a length. So every time he's improved, and I really think he likes to pay the bills for the owners, and hitting the board I think is very possible against this group.
I'm going to start with State of Rest, just like you, Tom.
This horse, scary.
Yeah, well, no, I think when we agree, it doesn't work out that badly. But it's coming off a Grade 1 win at Longchamp, as you like to say. The horse is going to make its second start off a layoff, which I find kind of interesting because it's been a while since this horse has put together 2 races in a row without taking out some time off in the middle. And when I say time off, it's usually taken off months.
No, they space the races.
Either that or their horse comes out of those races dinged up. And I would have guessed that they're going to if they ran them last on May the 1st, and now it's just going to be 21, 22, 3 weeks later. Yeah. He's back out on the track again. I'm sniffing a horse that the trainers think and the owners think is in fit form and ready to go, and did take a shot at the 1 mile distance once before and won the race. My only maybe little concern is that maybe a mile's not long enough for State of Rest. It looks to me like he prefers a little bit more distance. I'm going to go with Lord North as my next choice. 2-1 right now. Just ran for some big money in Dubai for what was it, $50 million or $5 million. Managed to take home that in a dead heat. Did lose to another horse that's in this spot, Alan Curragh, a race before that in Great Britain. It just looks to me like this horse off that last race is probably the quality horse in this race. On the turf 13 times with 7 wins. He's clearly one that can get the job done against high caliber horses. And I don't know that he's going to see anything in this spot that he didn't see in the Dubai race. The next horse for me is number 4. That is Helvik Dream. Must be a Greek horse then, no? Coming from a race last time out at the Curragh, where he finished 5th by 2 3/4 behind some other horses in this race, including Bar Story and High Definition. But when I look back at his record on a second time off a layoff, does pretty well. The only time he ran at a mile, he won. It seems to me that they've been running this one at State of Rest. I felt like a mile might be too short. Well, they've been running Helvik Dream at more than a mile. And I think that they've been running him in races that are too long. Well, this one is too long. This one's 1.25 miles as well. But I feel like he's going to be better in the second start off a layoff and has done well at the Curragh with 2 wins, a second and a third. And then finally, I'm going to close it out with your horse too. Number 3, The Broom. The horse ran in Tokyo last time out for the Japan Cup, which was a G1. Didn't really perform as well as they probably hoped it would perform. The time out before that,
they shouldn't have raced him.
It doesn't look like it. But the time before that,
it looks like the Breeders' Cup took too much out of him.
Yeah, well, I was just going to mention he finished second to Yabur in the Breeders' Cup. Now he's got some time off. The last time he had some time off, came back to finish second. And at the Curragh, he's, as you mentioned, 4 races, 2 wins, and a third. So I think you're going to see another good performance out of Broom. Now we're going to go to the Lawndale's Stud Stakes. Again, this one was a mile. I was a little bit confused on my distances in that last race, but only being confused once is an upgrade for me.
Well, as long as they get the job done, I don't care.
Well, as long as they finish the way I predict, even if I'm looking at the wrong distance. When I handicapped it, absolutely was the right distance. So this one is again a mile, and the mile race, as we mentioned back here, is going to start up here, come uphill, downhill, around the turn, head to the circular stop sign, and then they'll call it home. This one's going to start at approximately 10 a.m. Eastern, so make sure you have your TVs tuned in to wherever you do your betting. We don't have a sponsor as of yet,
or whatever, to watch this race, because all these races are very, very competitive.
So I was mentioning, we do not have a sponsor yet. So if anybody wants to sponsor us, a TVG, a Bet Us, whomever, let us know. We're here. All right, Tom. So take us through. Well, first of all, this race is a 8-horse field. In this particular spot, I don't really have a closer. There's a few that I think can close, but probably prefer to be closer to the front. I see 2 horses that are going to be on the lead, but once again, I think you might get 1 or 2 horses that get out in front a little bit, and then a clump of horses behind them.
Yeah, I actually thought it'd be more of a clump. I think they're going to be running and just jockeying for position before one of them swings out to go and take the lead and win. And my pick is number 5, Pearls Galore, is my top choice. 13 starts, 5 wins, 3 seconds, and third. Won its first start this year at Leopardstown as the favorite. It was a listed race. She ran over some nice horses. And she sat right behind the leaders and pounced, and that was it. At the Breeders' Cup race, she was in striking range. She did move forward and ran 6th. So pretty okay race. She ran a race at Longchamp that I like to look at. She fared better in that race, running and driving up, then challenged, and then finished 2nd. So, yeah, but she was also racing against Space Blues.
Good horse.
She's Group 1 placed, and she's a Group 3 winner. So they're looking for a little more black type with this Group 2 race. And I think she's in a nice spot based off that last race to do well here. Number 9, Twilight Spinner is my next choice.
I have it listed as 8 horse.
8, I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
Let me fix that. 6 starts, 3 wins, 1 second, 2 thirds. Winner at 7 furlongs in a Group 3 at the Curragh last out. Tracked the leaders and made her move, and she did well. She's really never won a bad race, as you can tell by that record. and she's faced both listed group company after her maiden win. Ran third in the first start of the year, and again, one of these ones that needed. And this will be her first try at 1 mile. So that's going to also be interesting to see if she can get that distance. And especially in this bunch. The number 2 horse, Robert Diodora, is my final choice.
They have it listed as
Probably doesn't even know this horse exists.
Yes, probably doesn't. But I have it listed as the 1 horse.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
I think it's not even post. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, I've got numbers wrong. Well, 12 starts, 2 wins, 3 seconds, and 5 thirds. Ran second in Naz, and last out sat towards the front and then backed off again. Was backed off early and came back to rejoin the leaders, and then was asked to go. It seemed to need a race because it finished second. It was the joint favorite in that race, which I thought was interesting, based on the fact that she's a German import and her only 2 wins were at Dusseldorf. But she's at the group levels in Germany. She ran third, ran fourth. I mean, she did okay. I'm really like that coming off that last race. A really nice chance of placing in this race.
It's funny. We were all over the place on Saturday, but we're in some alignment on Sunday. I like Twilight Spinner, top pick, the 8 horse, as my first choice. This one is a horse that's just page down where I'm supposed to be. Has run at the Curragh twice. Has a win, has a second, never off the board in 6 races, all of which were on the turf. Horse is making its 3rd start off a layoff. It only had 1 other 3-race cycle in its career, and that would be the first 3 races that it had. And that 3rd race was a G3, where it absolutely. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It was just a regular stakes race. The next time up, it ran a G3 at the Curragh, but absolutely smoked the field. So it was the best of the 3. My next one is the 4 horse, Pearls Galore, is my second choice in this spot. This horse, as you've mentioned, Tom, it's done very well. It's coming off a break. Looking back at the last couple times, it had a little bit of time in the barn. Came back to win last time out by a pretty strong 1 3/4 lengths. It's run at the distance 5 times, taking home the top prize twice, the second place prize twice as well, only 1 off the board. I agree with you on the German horse, the Robertino Diodora horse. That, I was concerned about those Germany races. How do they match up? And then I can't remember the name of the horse exactly, but there was another horse. I think it ran over here from Germany that we kind of discounted because of the German history. That not known for the best horse racing in the world. Maybe they make good cars, but horse racing.
They won the ARC last year, so keep that in mind.
I think that was probably the race I was thinking about. But then it did catch that race at Naz in Ireland, and it did so on a good track and ran pretty well and was well backed by the bettors. So obviously they felt good about that. So the people on the ground like what they saw. We'll see. I would pay attention to its odds too. The better, if its odds come down a little bit, I probably would be even more encouraged. Number 3, My Holy Fox. Boy, why in the world do I have My Holy Fox in here, Tom? Horse last time out at the Curragh ran 8th by 7 3/4 lengths. Was just a god-awful trip. But it's making its second start off a layoff. The horse has only had 1 other 2-race cycle. It debuted, then it went to the barn, came back, and that was in a 7-furlong race, a good race at Go-Ran Park. Performed poorly. Second time out, caught a 7-furlong race on the Curragh yielding course. Curragh yielding course. It's going to sound familiar to what we're going to see Sunday. And it ran its best race, winning that spot. So I think My Holy Fox is an upstate candidate in here. If you can take to the track a second time at the same kind of conditions, but going a little bit longer. And I feel like looking at its past performances, that going a little longer for My Holy Fox, which is going to be a price, might be the key to bringing home the winner's check. That only leaves us 1 race, Tom.
Yeah.
And we clean up the Curragh. This one is going to be the 1,000 Guineas. All right. So there's a lot more horses in this field, Tom. And this one's going to take off at approximately, we're going to start this one at 10:45 a.m. Eastern. Again, this one is a mile. We've been over the mile, down, up the hill, down the hill, around the corner to the circular stop sign to take home the win. This race, the pace is kind of interesting to me, Tom. I have 3 front runners that I think are going to head to the lead and could separate from the field. One that'll probably be in between them. So you'll have like 3, then a gap, then maybe 1 horse. And then you'll have the bulk of the field, probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 horses. And then you'll have 3 horses that I think could trail the field by a little bit and try to bring it home late.
It'll be an interesting running because with these 14 horse field, there's 1 horse in here that's raced once.
Yeah, and that was like a year ago.
Yeah, and beat a Royal Ascot winner in that maiden race. Now, what do you make of the horse in this one?
Yeah.
I sat there and went, I don't know.
And I had that same exact feeling.
Yeah, I just, and that's kind of the way I felt about a bunch of these horses.
Mm-hmm.
And so what did I landed on was number 11, Purple Pay is my top choice. It's 8 starts, 3 wins, 2 seconds and 2/3. It was transferred to William Haggis off its efforts in France, and really quite an interesting placement to put this horse in this race. Ran 3rd to Angel Blue at St. Cloud in the Criterium, which is a Group 1. Interesting running of the race because it tracked the leaders, made a strong move, and it was trying, but it just wasn't up to this group, up to that group that day. She's had really good runs all her races except for one, which was her first start. And the way the trainer in France handled her was, moving her up in the ranks, which is a little more common in France than it is on other places. So this is our first start of the year. He's got a new trainer. Obviously, the owners have very high hopes, and I think it's going to be the winner. Number 9, Miss and Scene is my next choice. 4 starts, 2 wins. She missed her last start, which was the 1,000 guineas at Newbury. She had a fever, and she was a vet scratch. So this is Plan B. She's a winner of novice and a Group 2 races, and she's 4th in a Group 1 at Newmarket. The trainer's owner thought she was good enough to run the Breeders' Cup, and she didn't run. She finished 10th. First start of the year, they obviously cleared up those issues, and they wouldn't enter her here, and she didn't have a chance. She won her maiden. She won her first race off a maiden. I can't see why she can't be very competitive here. And they certainly probably very disappointed not to be able to run in the other race. But yeah, this is a nice little consolation for us if they can get something done here. Number 5, History is my final choice. 4 starts, 2 wins, and 2 seconds. Last out winner in a Group 3 at Leopardstown. Just returned very strong. I mean, just a nice mid-pack move. With 2 furlongs left, it passed the leaders and went on, and really didn't look back. But interesting, it took it 3 starts to break maiden. Did lose to a future listed winner in one of those maiden races, so running against some okay company. So, but based on that last race out, and she looks really good, and she's also likes the surface. So I had to put her in there, and yeah, it's a tough bunch, but she seems to be on the improve.
Well, where do you end? I start, Tom. I'm going to start with History. This horse and its 2-year-old campaign got better from its first race to its second race to its third race. In the beginning of its 3-year-old campaign, picked up where it left off, got better, winning a G3, a Group 3 company race on a good track at a mile. and pulled away at the end. I think you're going to see the horse continue its trend up that performance ladder. It's an $800,000 horse, not a cheapie in here at all. My next spot is number 13, Tuesday. Going to draw the number 3 post. They all wear the same colors over there, Tom. This is a horse, too, that has performed pretty well. I mean, this won its debut by head at the Curragh. Took off some time, a little bit of time, about 6-7 months. Came back to win at Nas, a nice run at a mile on a good track. Next time out, ran a Group 1. Finished 3rd by only 2. I expect that you're going to see this is another horse that's going to continue to move up. Aidan O'Brien, Ryan Moore, that combination sounds pretty familiar to the people around here. Number 11, Purple Pay, your top choice, is my 3rd choice. So we kind of inverted those a little bit. This to me was another what do you do horse, because the fact that it hasn't run since October, which is why I didn't put it as higher in my rankings. It did come off and finished 4th in its debut. That's the only other time the horse had a little bit of time off before it came to the track, and then improved sharply off of that. So I think that Purple Pay is probably going to need a race before we see the best of it. But if it, spending the money 7 out of 8 races, 4 out of 4 at the distance, I do expect it to, to show well here. The question is, where does it finish? And then I'm going to close out my Sunday CurraghPicks with the number 1 horse. That is Agartha. That's it. Making its 3rd start off a layoff. This horse has run at the Curragh 3 times. Every single time it hit the board, 1st, a 2nd, and a 3rd. Here it was running in some shorter races at the Curragh. Last time out was the first time out at a mile, finished 2nd by 3/4 of a length to your 3rd pick, my top pick, History. I think the 3rd start, the horse will have more stamina. And in the 3rd start and 2nd start at the distance, we'll be better prepared to run 1 mile. And that wraps up our picks for the Curragh on Sunday. You have any parting pearls of wisdom for people who might be playing the Curragh for the first time?
Yeah, it's very different than a lot of racetracks that are out there, and the coverage is really good, as most of the tracks are, in watching the race, and you will see you will see the pattern of the horses running up and down, and it's really interesting to watch that. And if you get a chance, try to watch some of the earlier one or two of the earlier races, and it'll give you a better feel for what's going to happen in these races.
Fantastic. Sounds like good advice. Absolutely. So we'll be back on Monday. There won't be a show. Terry's on vacation tomorrow, so there won't be. Plus, everybody will be up early betting Pimlico, betting the Curragh. Nobody's going to want to pay attention to us. We'll be back on a Monday. Jared will continue to fill in one more day, provided he feels well, at Parks. We'll make our Parks picks. And Terry will return on Tuesday. Sean and I will return Monday night for the Horse Center. We'll have a great calendar of guests, as always. Sean does fantastic job at that. And of course, we hope you have a fantastic Saturday. We hope you have a fantastic Preakness, Black-Eyed Susan. Make sure you head on over to horseracingtoday.net, pick up the free view of the wager guide. If you like what you see, head on over to Guaranteed Tip Sheet. Please use a link that you'll find on Horse Racing Today so that they know where the traffic is coming from. If you haven't done so already, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Horse Race Today. And I want to say thank you to Mike Watkins and to Edith Del Carmen Valdez Mendez for the love on Facebook. If you like what you see, please, whether it's on Facebook or on YouTube, thumbs up are appreciated. The better our ratios, the higher up we go in the rankings. And that wraps it up. Tom, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Again, like I say many times with our European or wherever in the world we go look at the races, enjoy them, because they are a learning experience. And also, come November, you may see some of these horses at Keeneland.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a few. I alluded to that earlier on with one of the horses that we picked. All right, have a fantastic Friday, Saturday, Sunday, weekend. Hopefully all your Preakness picks come home and end up in the
winner's circle.
Indeed. Enjoy the day.
'Cause I'ma live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I